We were in a mental health crisis, and we know we don't have enough providers. The scary thing to me is AI. There's no regulations right now. The adolescent was on a chatbot. He had suicidal ideation, and he ended up killing himself because the chat box told him, oh no, don't tell your parent. What are people accessing?
I'm Travis Purdy, an alcoholic in recovery dedicated to giving back to the community that saved me. Join me and my incredible guests on our mission to break the stigma around mental health. One conversation at a time. This is Listen to Your Heart. Welcome back to Listen to Your Heart. Today, our guest is Dr. Debra Kawahara. She is the current president of the American Psychological Association, APA, and she's also the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs and Professor at Alliant International University. Dr. Debra, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we love starting all of our episodes with origin stories, where did you grow up? Where are you from? And then eventually, how did you end up getting into psychology?
All right. I grew up in the city of Gardena, and for those that don't know about Gardena, Gardena is considered like a little satellite, I guess, of Hawaii. Lots of people from Hawaii live there, but also other Japanese Americans. And so in that community, it was pretty heavily populated with Asian Americans. And so in some ways, I feel like growing up in Gardena, I was somewhat insulated in that there were, in my classes, there were a lot of Asian Americans. In terms of community leaders, there were people who were the mayor or were council people, were teachers. And so it didn't seem unusual for people to be in leadership positions. And the city actually integrated cultural events. So, the Buddhist church, it was part of the city, kind of Hanamatsuri or Obon or, and so in some ways I feel very fortunate to have lived in that compared to when I went to college. That was like the first time that I kind of understood what it meant to be a minority in the United States, right? Because all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's not too many of us here at the university. And then starting to learn about that. But one of the things I would say is, even though, there were positives in being in Gardena and being in a heavily populated area, but there were also the dynamics just of people, right? That the social hierarchies, now that I know the word is relational aggression or ostracism that people would do. And it's interesting, as I think back, I would always gravitate to the person that may be left out and just thinking that that was wrong. And so early on, I kind of, that was a value to me, that inclusion. Although I didn't have the words for it back then, So as I was going through, I grew up and I was doing competitive gymnastics. So I was really not in the social, I guess, of school, because as soon as school was over, oftentimes I would go to practice. And that was a big part of my life. So most of my friends were also, you're practicing so that you can compete.
They were your teammates. Most of your friends were your
Exactly.
teammates.
Yeah. And that was my focus in life, is from the first grade when I saw Olga Corbett. And then I started in Parks and Recreation, but I had kind of talent, I guess. And so then I slowly, my mom kind of found us private lessons, and then we joined a competitive team and things like that. So I was doing that. And at that time, pretty much you hit your peak at 14 or 15. So, this isn't junior high that you kind of find out you're not Olympic, material. I think about the kids competing now and the pressure, and I just think they're really young. But at any rate, so in junior high school, that was somewhat of where I had to, I guess, accept that I wasn't going to be this Olympic elite athlete. And so that kind of switched things for me. And I think it took me a while to adjust and transition out of that. So I kind of just fumbled around in high school, not really knowing what I was doing. And then probably my last year, my senior year in high school, I kind of figured out this thing about studying. Like, it doesn't take very much to actually put some effort in and get good grades.
So just had to try.
Yeah.
And there you
It's
go.
like, oh, these two things connect. So anyway, I was starting to figure out how to study for school. And I was a first gen. I knew my older brothers and sisters. I saw them, but for some reason, it was probably because I was so focused on athletics that the studying piece, it was like, I just kind of did what I needed to do, but I wanted to focus on practicing and getting better. So anyways, long story short, I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew is I was going to college.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was probably partly because I grew up in a community that's what you did. It was just assume you finish high school, you go to college. Now, what you're going to do at college, who knows?
Where did you end up going to college?
So I actually started at Cal State Long Beach. Again, not knowing what I wanted to do, kind of following my sister who went there, and kind of went through a series of majors because I didn't know. And it was kind of like, okay, well, I want to, what's a stable, gonna be a good paying position or profession. Yeah. So I went through engineering. Well, I took math. Not
your jam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, this is not going to work out. Then I just went through, my brother and my sister-in-law were pharmacists. They said, great field for females, right?
Sure.
Did that. It just didn't resonate. I mean, I could do the classes, but it just was not hitting. And then I took this career counseling class, and you do the career.
Oh, like quiz.
Yeah, where they try and figure out what careers would be good for you. It came up counseling. And that kind of really, I really thought about it. And, I was young, 19 or 20. And being my idealistic self, when you're 19 or 20, I really, it's like, I want to help people. I want to make a difference. I want to change the world to make it better. And so I decided I was going to go into some kind of counseling. And luckily, my sister had a friend who was a psychologist, so I could talk to her and ask her what she was doing. But I kind of, in my heart, kind of knew. This is right. This is what I want to be doing. From there, I transferred to UCLA because once I figured out kind of what I was going to do, then I transferred to UCLA and then got my psychology degree there. And really, it was fortunate because at the time, Dr. Stanley Su, who's a really well-known Asian American psychologist.
I just saw him speak.
Yeah. So luckily, when I was going to UCLA, he was a professor there. And what he did that really, at the time, was revolutionary is he integrated psychology with Asian American studies. And and then the work became Asian American psychology.
Wow.
And so I could integrate both of those things.
Yeah.
And study,
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
I was going to anyway, but I love the way your story was unfolding. So I grew up in Hawaii, as you know, and I'm mostly Polynesian, so I'm a little Asian as well. But I have, many friends, now family, that grew up more Asian American, and then of course Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. So I wanted to ask you about the stereotype about the Asian American like careers, if you will, right? Doctor, lawyer, engineer. So
Accountant.
yeah, right. I figured I'd ask because you mentioned like you tried doing engineering, like and then like pharmacist, doctor, right? Like
Yeah.
or different type, medical
Yeah.
doctor type, whatever. Did you feel any of that like kind of pressure from your family? Like when you told them you were going into psychology and counseling, what was the feedback? How did that all that go?
So being a first generation uh, graduate, or my parents, I think they knew like, okay, yeah, you need to go to college, but they didn't know how to guide you or
Yeah.
advise you, and I think it was like in some ways they 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 didn't meddle kind of
Oh,
in what kind of career we were choosing. All that we knew, one of the things is I come from a family of 6 kids. Only my dad worked. My mom was stayed at home. So I had to pay for my own way through college. My parents let me stay in the house, so I commuted, but all my expenses, I had to figure out how I was going to pay for it. And at the time, I didn't even know there were student loans. So I was working and paying for my school. And
amazing.
well, it's just what you have to do,
It's just what was
right?
needed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you do what you need to do, right? I'm number 4,
Okay.
but it's kind of seen it. So really, it's the 3 older kids,
Okay.
and then there's 5 years between me and my sister that's right above me. So there were the 3 older kids and the 3 younger kids. So
And you're
I'm the oldest of the
youngest.
yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
What kind of feedback did your siblings give you about going into psychology?
So they we kind of just, I didn't get a lot of feedback. I mean, my brother and my sister-in-law at the time, when I finally decided what I was going to do, and then I was trying to decide, do I transfer or not? They said, yes, you transfer because you need, go to the best school that you can go to. So I did.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now you've gone through the program and all that. Is there I love to shout out like early mentors, supervisors, a professor even. Was there someone from this time period, either when you were working on your doctorate or right after, that, someone we can give some credit to?
Yeah, I mean, so I ended up choosing a program that wasn't like your Research One university, where I chose a professional school, which is unusual, because it's really practice oriented, are most of the professional schools. At least that's typically. And so my ultimate goal was to be executive director at a community mental health center.
Okay,
I am
Dr.
not
Debra,
there.
way
Yeah.
to go! Heck yeah, I
Well,
love that.
because that was at the time I was going through undergraduate and taking the classes, learning about oppression and minoritized groups and things like that. My ultimate goal was to help underrepresented, underserved communities, and I thought community mental health was the way that I wanted to put my service towards. And so I chose a program. At the time, it was pretty. It was revolutionary, or pretty cutting edge, in that multiculturalism was integrated throughout the curriculum. And then I
Mm.
had professors that were not only teaching, but they were having positions out in the community. And so you asked me about some of the people that mentored me. Dr. Leslie Jackson, Dr. Jeffrey Ring, uh, Dr. Glenn Masuda, and the nice thing was they were doing community work. They were working in the communities that I had intended to serve.
Amazing.
Yeah, and to be able to learn and hear what they were doing, because they were actually walking the walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of after this time period, after school is done,
Yeah.
like what do you end up doing next?
Okay, so I was still on my community mental health track.
Yeah.
So I went to a program out kind of, it's probably, I would say, probably at 75 miles away from LA. It's in the Antelope Valley. It's in Lancaster, Palmdale area. They were starting a pilot program, the System of Cares program. And what the System of Cares program did was it was trying to pilot bringing together all the different service providers for a family, and kind of the psychologist or therapist was kind of the coordinator of the team. And it later became, in California, it's called wraparound services.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started there. And then from there, I went to a residential treatment facility and I worked on a unit for adolescent males. And it was a residential treatment facility where they either made it at the treatment facility or they usually would be going to juvenile hall.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we really, I mean, it was like this was the last stop. And so I did that. And then I got really burned out. I mean, unfortunately, I think in community mental health, the factors that you're working under, the working conditions, are opposite of what those families, what those individuals need. High turnover, lack of resources, overworked, and that's just not the ideal situation to be doing treatment with these usually they're trauma histories, multiple issues that they're coming in with, lack of resources, so all the things that you needed in order to really do some good healing were not there for you. So I burned out. I actually also met my husband.
Okay.
And he was in San Diego. So and he couldn't move because of his business. And so I took a year off.
Okay.
And moved down to San Diego and decided I'm going to take a break from the community mental health track. And I found a postdoc position at CSPP San Diego,
Nice.
California School of Professional Psychology.
Okay.
San
That's cool.
Diego.
Got it.
Yeah. And that position was both I wanted to continue my research, and that position also was like a visiting faculty member. So I was teaching, and which I was not, that was not what my plan was at all. I never even dreamed of going into academia. But that's where I found myself. It actually ended up being a good fit because I'm still there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait a minute. I recognize those letters. I swear you still do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
So that's what I'm doing now. And I've just kind of moved from kind of the faculty to academic administration.
When you started teaching,
Uh-huh.
did it just kind of hit you like, oh man, this is where I'm supposed to be? Is that kind of how that?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
No, okay.
Remember, I didn't go to a program that, at least during your graduate program, if you're at a research university or research program, they generally will have you teaching classes, you being kind of the graduate assistant that students go to. I didn't do that. I was mostly focused on practice. So this was a whole new ballgame for me. And it just meant I had to really put a lot of time and energy in learning and getting better at it. I was not, I would say if I think back, it's like, wow, yeah, I had to practice a lot, or I had to get a lot of experience. But eventually it did, it was like, this is actually a good fit for me.
Nice. When did it finally start feeling like a good fit?
It probably, I would say probably between 5 to 7 years is when I felt like, okay, I'm getting the swing of this. Yeah.
What was something that you found out about teaching that was kind of unexpected?
I think the thing about teaching is that it's a different kind of relationship than therapy. And I like therapy too. I think that is so unique, the relationship that you have with clients, right? But I think being able to develop students, graduate students, and seeing them grow, and kind of getting them from, where they're just starting their program. And then at the end of their program, after they've done all their clinical work, they've done their dissertation, and then to see them launch, and then later on to actually see them in their careers is something so satisfying. It's like, okay, I'll take, I kind of helped this person develop, and now look at what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of why I like asking any of our guests about impactful mentors and supervisors from earlier
Mm-hmm.
on, because I know we've not talked a ton off camera in this year, but one of the things we do at our clinic is we teach therapists to open private practices,
Ah,
but we also believe in professional development. So
yeah,
we also employ postgrads,
yeah,
right? Postgrads and postdoc,
yeah,
and we're also a practicum site for students and interns, right?
yeah,
But the reason is, for me anyway, as a non-clinician,
yeah.
just as somebody who cares about the field,
Ah,
is if we do a good job when they're not young, but young in the field, students,
yeah,
then that sets them up for success later. And they could have a
yes,
huge impact on our community, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, I mean, I now it's like, oh, some other mentors that along the way you meet people, and I feel like it was fortuitous. I met somebody, Dr. Oliva Speen, who helped with my scholarship, which I knew, and kind of my conceptualization and writing. It's like I needed that for my academic position, right? And I was able to find how somehow the synergy came together, and then other people that just, I guess, they believe in you, they see something in you, and they're willing to kind of let me support you, let me help you. And so now I feel like I need to pay it forward and want to do that with students and early career professionals.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this, about academia. What's like the biggest challenge, would you say, is kind of happening in academia right now? Whether, for you specifically or your organization, and how is like the field, maybe even your
Yeah.
university or you addressing like this, the biggest challenge you guys have?
Yeah, probably the biggest challenge right now, is I'm going to say cost. You know, um, it's expensive to get a doctoral degree. It's a lot of time, and so you're delaying working, right? Um, and I think the latest challenge had been the federal government, with the loans. So luckily, clinical psychology has been listed as one of the professions. They were initially not listed. It was like 10, but at least clinical psychology got listed. But there's other mental health disciplines that are still not listed, right? Clinical counseling, marriage family therapy, social workers. I mean, we even think nurses aren't on that lit, right? So these are all, and we know since, in terms of mental health, even before the pandemic, we were in a mental health crisis. And that then the pandemic just has exacerbated mental health issues across the board. I mean, we're not talking like one specific group: kids, adults, first responders, older adults. I mean, across the board. And we know we don't have enough providers, right? And so I think we're seeing higher education right now in a crisis, kind of, because them saying, I mean, and I think part of the rationale is they don't want people to be in so much debt. But at the same time, if you're not giving them the opportunity, then we're also like creating other problems, right? Because we know there's not enough providers. We need providers that are culturally responsive. But also, I think it is important for people to see providers that look like them,
100%.
right? That
Yes.
representation and visibility matter, that they know who these people are. Because in many of the communities, in social historical, they weren't treated well. And so they're very mistrustful and wary of people just coming in, and it's like, what are you going to do to us?
Yeah.
Right?
Especially like, we're from an island culture, especially when people who are not from the community come in and
Exactly.
with the, I don't want to be mean because there's a lot of great people who
Yeah.
are not from our community that serve the community. But if someone comes in not from your area and tries to tell you this is how it's supposed to be done, that's usually not received well,
Yeah.
regardless of what area you're in.
It's community psychology. It's like those people need to know that you're not there to take advantage of them, or that you're going to do something harmful or damaging to them, because that has happened before, right? And also, it's like kind of the question, how do you know us? How do you know what's good for us? How do you know what's going to work for us when we don't know who you are?
Yeah. And thank you for mentioning uh, m- repeatedly, because we all do the same, right? Like there are not enough providers. There are not enough providers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think, you know, um, we need to get people trained, because people are suffering out there. And the scary thing to me, that I think one of the emerging issues is AI,
Okay.
and people using AI as a substitute for going to a professionally trained therapist, because it's so accessible, it's so available. But we know that these, whether it's AI, whether it's these chatbots, there's no vetting of it. There's no regulations right now. And so what are people accessing, right? And this, one of the examples has been, I know APA filed with the FCC because of the recent case where the adolescent was on a chatbot. He thought he was talking to a person. Anyways, he had suicidal um, uh, ideation, and he ended up killing himself because the chat box told him, "Oh no, don't tell your parent." Because he was saying, "I'm going to tell." Yeah, and so that's the kind of stuff that right now is scary, right? But that, because of the lack of providers, people aren't being able to get services, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think this makes sense. So for somebody out there who like wants to be a therapist, wants to get in the field, but also knowing, hey, this profession, if you're like, say you're a social worker student
Mm.
right now, right, or
Uh-huh.
mental health counseling, or you're on the
Yeah.
MFT track, what would you say to one of those folks, student, somebody working towards the field, even though there's these challenges, what would you share with them?
Yeah, I mean, what I would share with them is you're really needed.
Yeah.
So keep going. I know there might be times where, I mean, I even had it in my doctor program. Is this the right career for me? Should I be doing this? Because there's times where it's like it really challenges you, and stretches you. I think that's the one thing about this field. And when you're training to become a professional, it stretches you in ways that you never thought. It's not like school, like just go to class, take down notes, learn the information, and then take a test. That's not, professional school. You have to develop yourself as a tool.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that phrase. I've never heard
Yeah.
it put that way. You have to
Yeah.
develop yourself as a tool
Yeah.
and continue it too, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Because you don't want that tool to become obsolete.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to academia.
Okay.
Can I ask you,
Sure.
what is a moment when you felt really proud to be doing this work?
The thing that came to my mind just immediately was this past August when I was at the APA convention and doing the opening session and seeing among all of my peers, it's like, wow, um, this is it.
How cool.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
were many people there.
Yeah, there were many people there. Yes.
There were
yes,
a lot of people there.
Yes, there were. Well, you were there.
I was, yeah.
Well, we saw each
That's
other.
right, saw you
yeah,
there,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yep,
yeah.
there was
But
a
that
lot of
opening
people there.
session just, it just, I don't know. There was something that magical that came together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is, to be honest, it's one of the things I really love about going to conferences. Because I help therapists get into solo private practice,
Uh-huh.
I also try to share with them, go to these trainings,
Yeah.
go to these conferences, because there's something about being with your peers, your colleagues, your friends too, right? You're going to run into your grad school friend.
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like there's something, magical is a great word. There's something about it,
Mhm.
that for me, it makes me feel like we're all not alone because the
Mhm.
work is challenging.
You had talked about, what would I say to those students going through a program? Find your community. Just like you do in your personal life, you figure out who your peeps are, who's
Right.
your community. You need to do that professionally. So, join something, some organization that's going to support you, that you're going to feel like, okay, I'm going to, that this community is going to hold me. I'm going to learn from them. They're going to learn from me. And, it's a support network for
We're in
you.
this together.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
So, Doc, since you first joined the field, since you first got into psychology versus now, right?
Uh-huh.
We're at the time of filming, we're almost, it's almost Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
2025. So, but since you first joined the field till now, like, what are some of the changes in psychology that kind of come to mind?
The first one I will say is AI, technology, and digital therapeutics. When I was training, and I think because I'm toward the end of my career, I hope not the absolute end, but
Nah, you're right in the middle, Doc. Come on.
But I think this is going to be part of therapists working, and they're going to have to know, how do I utilize these as a therapist? They're here. They're going to be around. You better know how to work with them effectively and to the best interests of your clients, right? And it's moving fast. It's moving faster than we can, keep up with it. So I would say that is one of the things. I think the second is, I think the world is getting more interconnected. And I think we have to be open to, how are other people doing what we're doing? Like, not to be so ethnocentric or myopic in terms of the way that we're practicing. Because I think they're doing some really interesting things in other countries,
Yeah.
but we're not, so really widening our scope
Yeah.
in terms of practice.
I feel like I have to ask this. So when you first got into psychology, what was, I won't ask you the year, but like what? But I am curious, like, where was like our culture, our society with the internet at the time that you got into psychology,
Okay, so this will date me.
Okay.
I think the Mac was just coming out when I was in college.
Okay.
And then by the time I got in graduate school, everybody had a computer,
Okay.
But it was nowhere near what it was now. Like, it was after I graduated that AOL,
Oh, it was really, when
Yeah.
the CDs were popping up everywhere.
Exactly.
At everyone's house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've seen just within our short period of life how much technology has moved
Yeah.
and progressed.
where it kind
Yeah.
of sounds like in your college days, plus or minus a year, a couple of years, it's like Google really started coming around and being a
Just,
thing, right?
yeah,
A
I
big
mean,
thing.
yeah, Ask Jeeves.
Right, Ask Jeeves. I definitely remember Ask Jeeves. Yes, Ask Jeeves.
So that really dates me, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's like, yeah, that was probably the precursor to AI, right? You
Yeah,
ask Jeeves, and then it's like, ask the question, he'll give you the answer or
yeah.
whatever.
Because um, I know that period of time affected many industries as well across the
Hmm.
world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't just on healthcare or any of that. And that changed a lot of businesses forever. Some went away,
Yep,
so, but a bunch of new ones popped up. And
right,
then it all eventually we adjusted. And now, 30 years later, AI is here, like you mentioned,
right.
and it's just not going anywhere. So,
Yeah,
you're right, for the students and the young professionals and whoever's still in the field now, it's part of our lives, so we got to figure out how
yeah.
to work with it.
Exactly. And the thing is that what we haven't, I mean, there are things that, they're trying to talk about how to help youth with, you know, the internet or digital kind of things, social media. We know that we're going to have to do a lot of research because there are going to be issues,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So for the psychologists out there, or even just for the master's level therapists
Uh
out
huh.
there, let's say they want to get into teaching, they want to
Okay.
get into academia.
Uh huh.
What's like a word of advice you have for them?
I think with higher education changing, it may change how they go about finding
Positions.
positions, instructors. But I would say, if you're interested in that, while you're in your programs, you can always be teacher's assistants. And that is one way of seeing, do I like it? You would be working under the instructor. So that's one way of starting to get some experience and seeing. Um, the other I would say is, making making connections, making relationships with people that'll maybe give you a foot in. Now, a lot of people, what they do as if they're doing more practice, um, is they will attach themselves to a program and do supervision of students
Yeah.
because oftentimes they'll have, either consultation groups or supervision groups. And that's one way of starting, to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, Dr. Deborah, if I could shift to this.
Okay.
So on a more personal note, what's one thing you do to say ground or reset yourself when life gets hectic?
Oh, well, I have some things that I'm a really routine kind of person.
Same here.
So I mean, one is just I like my routine. And so being able to get up and just kind of in the morning have my time exercising. So I do probably, well, I try an hour on the elliptical, and that just really helps set my day.
Is that kind of part of your morning routine, if you
Yeah,
will? Okay.
that's part of my morning routine. And that just starts, it just helps me like get going. The other thing is I need my sleep. I'm not a very, I just need my sleep. So
Okay.
that's another
Yeah,
thing that
yeah.
I just need. I mean, I just have these things that I know if I'm off kilter, it's like, okay, let me look at the things that I know really help me. And that's kind of it. And then it's just looking at things, stressors, right? How stressful are things right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to ask you about the elliptical. So when you're on
Okay.
the elliptical, so
Okay.
I'm also a very routine person,
Yeah.
and I prefer working out in the morning
Okay.
than later in the
Yeah,
day
me too.
because it helps set me up for the day.
Exactly.
Actually, I worked
Exactly.
out this morning because
So did I.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. So, and I love doing cardio. I
Uh-huh.
mix it up, but like for you, when you're on the elliptical, are you listening to something? Are you watching? Are you just kind of thinking?
So I haven't been as good, but usually I'll do about 10 minutes where I'm doing meditation because it's like trying to use my time efficiently. So I'll do that and focusing on something, whether it's my breath or my bottom of my feet or whatever. So I do that. And then it's either I'm generally I like to listen to music, so and I 80s 90s music is
Yeah, I was
kind
gonna
of
ask what's on the
my
playlist.
thing, and so that just it kind of helps too with just kind of pumping the elliptical. Or the other thing that I do if I need to kind of somewhat work, I'll listen to audiobooks, yeah,
Right.
or podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I
Yeah.
could do when I was watching your podcast.
Yeah. Right on. Thank you. Actually, like doing cardio is when I consume my podcasts.
Oh,
Yeah, because then
uh-huh.
I like all kind of cardio stuff, whether I'm running or
Oh,
whatever, and that's what I'll do. And I find it. I don't, I wouldn't say I meditate, but I
oh.
find I find cardio meditative. Do you know what I mean?
I just know if I find it to be energizing, like if I don't do it, I feel sluggish during the day. Like just like you didn't get the oxygen in your blood to get going. Yeah.
Actually, since tomorrow's Thanksgiving, for years, almost every single year for the last, I don't know, 15 or 18 or whatever, I've usually done some kind of cardio, usually running on the
Oh.
morning of Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
And that's like my good excuse to like make that deposit before I eat a ton of pumpkin pie later, you know?
You could really indulge.
Yeah. But I find the whole thing meditative because you have to focus on your breath,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, so great. Thank you. I couldn't help. I like that tangent a lot. Um, Let me ask you this. What do you wish that they taught about mental health in school? But say like middle school or high school. What do you wish that the school system taught kids about mental health?
I think they're getting better, but one of the things that I would have I would like is for them to consider mental health as part of your overall health. It's just like that thing that you should be, just like we're talking about physical health,
Hmm.
right? That
Yeah.
it's part and parcel of your overall health, and that they kind of teach them like different components of mental health. How do you take care of your mental health? Emotional regulation, um, meditative or meditation, mindfulness kind of things. Those, coping skills. Like, one of the things that I think they've talked about is kids not understanding like disappointment and that maybe not everyone's going to be the winner, so those kind of things is can they teach them how do you deal with emotions that you have and situations that you're going to find yourself in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
What do you think about, like the term therapy speak or pop psychology? I think one really great thing is mental health is talked about more
Mhm.
online and in person, which is
Mhm.
great. But also part of that, I think what's come with it is a lot of non-clinicians or just a lot of regular folks, using
Yeah.
clinical language to describe something that maybe clinically doesn't qualify. So what's your thoughts on therapy speak or pop psychology, if you will?
You know, it's one of the things that I think with social media and people wanting to be influencers, I think we're seeing this a lot. A lot of mm, um I guess I will say unqualified people speaking as though they actually have the knowledge and experience to be talking about the things that they're talking about. And, if they're entertaining, if they're engaging, but they may be giving misinformation out. So I guess, it is hard because it's like, how do you get the public to be, you know, um, savvy consumers, I guess, of this mental health information that's being kind of pumped out there.
Yeah. You know what? Thank you for sharing that. It's a big reason we started doing this show. And most of the people I've interviewed are licensed therapists, postdoc, postgrads, or current students. So they're
Hmm.
somewhere on the track,
Right.
right?
Uh-huh.
And hopefully we're able to spread more positive information and good information.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're giving them misinformation or
Mm,
disinformation, again, it could be harmful or damaging.
yeah.
to someone.
And let me ask you this. This is actually one of my favorite questions to
Okay.
ask like
Okay.
psychologists, therapists in general is can you share with us what is the misconception about therapists?
Oh, a misconception.
Uh,
Okay, so this one, absolutely. That anytime I'm meeting someone, that I can read their mind. Okay.
Right.
I am not a psychic, and usually what I'll tell people is, "Well, you're not paying me right now, so I'm not doing that."
It's like, wait, Dr. Deb, you're not a Jedi? No
No,
mind reading tricks
no.
here?
Yeah, so they get really, freaked out or whatever, but yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. And then if I could ask you about the American Psychological Association, APA.
Yes.
So at the moment you are the current president of APA. Can you share with me and the audience, like what does APA do?
Wow.
I know they do a lot.
It does a lot.
Big question, yeah.
So, the American Psychological Association is the national organization that represents over 173,000 psychologists. And that doesn't just include in the United States. We do have members that are across the globe. And really, the mission of the association is to better people's lives and improve society, and so and in all different ways. So within the association we have scientists and researchers, we have practitioners, we have policymakers, we have applied psychologists. So those would be those industrial organizational psychologists that go into workplaces. We have sports psychologists. So it's a vast, diverse group of psychologists that the association serves
Yeah,
and represents.
I was going to ask you because there's a bunch of divisions,
Right.
within APA that members can like sign up to be part of a specific division. Like I know of the division, Division 42, I believe. Independent practice. Yeah.
Right.
But I know there's a bunch of other
Yeah, so
divisions.
specialties.
Specialties. Okay.
Yeah. So you have clinical psychology, counseling psychology, society on social issues. You have industrial organizational psychology, consulting psychology. So there's, I think, around 57 divisions.
Wow.
And those are different, specialties. And what I would say is what we know in the association is oftentimes people find a division to be very satisfying because it then is going to lock you into kind of what your area of expertise is.
What are some of the positive, impactful things that APA has done recently in the last few years or so?
Oh, okay. Well, I will specifically talk about the things that I think have been very impactful this year because we've had so many executive orders and policies that have come out. So one of the things that they did was they signed on with many medical organizations and other mental health organizations when the funding for research and science got cut. And that impacted a lot of our psychologists. And one of the things that we know is that science is what informs us about practice, right? It also helps in thinking about therapy and interventions that we're going to use, right?
Yeah.
And so the stop in the grants means that the science stopped. And oftentimes, just because it stops, it doesn't mean that you can just start again, So the impact of this, many of the scientists and researchers are saying this is going to have long range implications. And we see some scientists leaving the US. The other thing that I think has been really important that the APA has done is it has this amicus brief program. So oftentimes it'll write papers that go to the Supreme Court that help in judging certain cases.
Wow.
The amicus brief program is really what they do is they get experts for the particular issue that the Supreme Court is looking at, and then they write in terms of psychological science how to that issue can be informed by our science.
Got it.
When the ban in Florida for sexual orientation to be part of psychology courses in the AP
Mm,
courses, APA intervened there and said that based on our science, that actually is part of a psychology curriculum. And so it should be included in it.
yeah.
So those are some ways that the APA is making an impact.
What like cool things is APA working on now that you can share with us, moving forward?
Yeah, so one of the highest priorities, and I've talked a lot about it, is technology and AI.
Okay.
We know that this is permeating all of our lives, and that, we foresee it really thinking about how is this gonna impact the way that we live. I mean, and so what are the positives of it, like the benefits of having it, but then also what are kind of issues or negatives
Yeah,
of
the
it.
things to be aware of and
Yeah,
caution people around.
right,
And how do we
right.
how do we help when harm has happened?
Yeah,
That kind
and
of thing.
ethics,
Ethics.
ethics of it, therapeutics of it, so there's really amazing. One of the things that we know is that with AI, algorithms are used, but the algorithms are only as good as the data that's put in there.
That's right.
And so, is the data biased in any way? Is it lacking in any way? Um, those are important things that we have to figure out.
For you, how did you get involved with APA leadership? How did you end up doing all that?
Yeah. Okay. So, really, this is where, when I was telling the students get involved, for me, that was a way, I'm pretty introverted. And so that was a way for me to connect with people, but then have kind of a structured project that I'm working with people on. And so it wasn't like this open, like, hi, how are you? Those social hours that you have to go to. Those are not my favorite at all.
Okay.
So really getting involved with different associations was a way for me to get involved, but also to meet people. And so, I just started doing it, and slowly, people would say, hey, do that, or I had an interest of something. And then slowly, you just kind of work yourself up the ranks. And there you go. That's how I did it, and a lot of it had to do with, people I met, and then people knowing I would get things done. So be careful of that too. If you're a good worker, they'll find things for you to do.
Assignments and
Yeah,
projects will come your way.
exactly. And don't be afraid to say no, because there'll always be volunteer opportunities for you.
I know. I think with the amount of therapists, psychologists, counselors, and all the above that I've worked with, there does seem to be a theme. Most of us have a hard time saying no. So, if I may ask, how is the saying no muscle going for you?
It's still work in
Work in progress.
progress.
Right on, Doc.
Yeah,
Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that.
And I think part of it for me is I get interested in so many things. But the downfall is letting go of things. So the plate gets full, and it's like you got to take something off, and that's hard to choose what thing that's going to be for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of our providers out there can feel that, can definitely feel that as well, which is also why the field needs more providers.
Exactly.
Please. So you mentioned something earlier, and I even have it written down. So I'm glad that you brought it up. So in your time, working with APA this past year as president, I know you've gotten a chance to travel around,
Hmm.
see a lot of cool things and cool programs, meet a ton of awesome psychologists and other people in the behavioral health field. What are and other countries. I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned that. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Like, hello, yeah, it's not just an American thing. What are some memorable, I don't know, people, programs that come to mind as you've traveled around and got to meet them?
As I've traveled around, I guess the thing that really surprised me is, um, because of my association with APA, how much they were like so happy that I made it to wherever, um, whatever country that I personally made the trip and made the time to come to whatever event or conference they were having. Um, so that to me was, yeah, I mean, that was just so heartwarming, you know?
Yeah, that's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so for APA as a whole, do you have to be a psychologist to be a member of APA?
You actually, I mean, to be a full member,
Right.
like you need to be a psychologist,
Yeah.
but you can be affiliate member,
Yeah.
you can be a student member,
That's right.
you you can even be a high school.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, high schoolers could be it. So, high school, college, and then graduate student and
Yeah.
affiliate, international members can be affiliates.
For for the psychologists out there that
Uh,
are not APA members, what would you share with them, about like why they should join or even consider why should they consider joining APA?
Yeah, I I think it would be good for them to join because I always believe in critical mass, that we have more influence if we're all together. And stronger together. And I ran on strength and unity. Um, and I think one of the things as I have been involved with APA is I am seeing that it is so important for us to do advocacy, that to have influence with our politicians, our policymakers, our legislators, um, because that's where we're going to make huge impact. And then it goes down to the individual families and communities. Um, and so we can do that because, with our credentials, with our privilege, they're going to listen to us and we're going to be able to get in the door. And then we're going to be able to speak with our voice that then will impact many, many communities.
Absolutely. Last but not least about APA, how can someone, support, get involved, maybe learn more about membership? How can someone find that?
Yeah, you could just go on the website, www.apa.org, go under membership, and you can figure out which category you belong to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm a little biased too because I work with a lot of psychologists. My business partner is a
Uh,
psychologist, and I've gone to the APA convention a couple few
uh-huh.
times, and it's wonderful. There's like great energy there, and it is nice. There's even a membership level for someone like me because I'm not a clinician, I'm not a student, I'm not in that path, but I
Mhm.
do own a clinic and I do support psychology. So there
Wonderful.
was even a membership level for me as well, which I happily support because I love the work that the association is doing. So
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, of course. And then as we kind of wind down, there's this thing that I like asking our professionals about. So I call it three levels of advice.
Okay.
So here are the three kind of scenarios,
Okay.
and we would love to hear your advice for each of the scenarios.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one is it's a person they're thinking about getting into mental health. The field. They're thinking about going to school. Maybe I'll take a psychology class. Maybe I want to go to counseling. To learn about doing that. What is your piece of advice for someone thinking about going into the education for mental
So, what I would say is to try and get some experience of what you would want to be doing to see whether do you like it or not, right? Because I know when I'm interviewing people, it's like I want to see that you've checked this out and that you know that this is what you want to do. It's not enough to say, "Oh, my friends like talking to me about their problems."
health? Right.
That's great, but I want you to find out, do you like what it would take to be a professional. And then also to check out, what would it take to be in a graduate program, right? Because it's a lot of time and energy that's going to be invested in it.
Speaking of all that education, the next level of advice is there's the doctoral student out there, right? They're in their PhD, their PsyD program, whichever they might be in. Maybe they're near the end. They're hammering away that dissertation, that really long thing you guys have to do. So, what's your advice to the doctoral student out there?
I think that to get trained well, I think you gaining your skills and being proficient, being competent is really important. Those are going to carry you through. And even I know, many of them may be learning research, but they know I'm not going to do research, but those skills are translatable, and they're going to help you in other situations. Even if you're just even reading research, to be able to know, is this strong? Was it rigorous? To help you then do your practice. So I would just say, whatever you're learning, whatever you're getting trained, to get it done well.
Excellent. So the third level of advice, we're talking about the new career, early career psychologists. Maybe they're done the postdoc supervision stuff. Maybe they just got issued their license. They're a couple of years in now, early career psychologists. What is your advice for them?
Well, first of all, I will say, be okay with everything may not be falling into place all at once, that it does take a while, and your career is a marathon. It isn't a sprint. And so you don't have to do everything all at once. But I think you have to focus. You have to, doing too many things and dividing your attention. I think at the beginning of your career may make you fragmented. And so to really focus, what do I need to do right now? Right? Because most of the time it's you need to get licensed. Get licensed, because that'll open up a lot of doors for you. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
It's interesting. I feel like I've learned, and feel free to disagree with me if it doesn't make sense, but I feel like for all the therapists that I've met, as soon as you get licensed, well, now things actually start. Right?
Yeah.
There is all that education, which is warranted. And I know you guys go through a lot, but it's your career really starts, because then you can get paid for real too, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you get that license, now you're on.
Yeah. The difference between non-licensed and then being licensed is because when you're licensed, you can be independent.
Right.
Right. When you're non-licensed, you have all of these parameters that you still have to have in place in order for you to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is kind of a line in the sand, as you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, you have a podcast we just found out right before shooting this. Yes. Tell us about the podcast that you're doing.
Yeah. So I just started it maybe about 6 months ago.
Awesome.
It's called Wellness in Today's World.
Wellness in Today's World.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what it's focused on is I'm really going to try, now that I'm transitioning out of the APA president role, I'll be past president next year, but I'm focusing on returning back to my professional position at the university. And also I'm doing this podcast, and really what I'm trying to do is take a positive psychology approach. And next year, what I'm going to try and do is do a year of renewal, self-care, and restoration.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Where can the podcast be found?
You could just go on the internet and say Wellness in Today's World, or go to my university, Alliant International University, and the podcast will be listed there.
Okay. So Wellness in Today's World.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Is it, if I may ask, is it interview style, or are you kind of writing and making your own episodes and kind of solo
interview
radio?
style.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm having guests, and most of them have books, so we're
Got it.
focusing on their books.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Right on, Doc. Thanks for sharing that. I'll have to go find your podcast after because I just learned about this right before filming.
Yeah.
So I'll check. Yeah, we'll check it
Great.
out definitely.
Great.
So before I ask you our final question of the show, I wanted to share a little bit about. Well, shoot, I wanted to share some gratitude towards you. So number one, of course, I'm thankful that you drove over here to come sit down and do this interview with us. Really appreciate you doing our show. And we met at the Hawaii Behavioral Health and Wellness Convention, last year's one.
Yes.
Yes. And that's why it was so nice for you to say what you said about support. What was surprising about traveling all over, because that's exactly how we felt.
Yes.
I was like, oh, the APA president came to visit us. That's so cool.
In Hawaii, yes. I mean, it was almost like shocking that I would make the trip out to Hawaii. Yeah. But I was happy to go. Just to let you know, my parents are from Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So my dad is from Wahiawa, and my mom was from Kahalue in Maui.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love Wahiawa. My mom's from Wahiawa.
Oh,
So when I was a kid, all the holidays and birthday this and that was all kind of at my grandma's house in
okay.
Wahiawa. So
okay. So we might have a community connection.
Yeah.
Or we do.
We definitely do. Yeah. Awesome. But it's exactly what you said. And several other of the people I were with were like, oh, that's cool. Because you came in, you didn't just come and attend, you came and spoke at the convention.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Also, I hope it's okay to say, I also was surprised. I also didn't realize how short you are. Because I saw you, because I came in the room and you were on stage. And then my business partner was like, oh, let's go say hi. And then I came up, I'm like, wow, she is not a tall lady.
Yeah. I'm pretty small.
Yeah. So when you mentioned gymnast earlier, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Sorry.
That's okay.
Also, it was nice running into you at APA in Denver. Because how is that speaking in front of, I don't know, a couple thousand of your peers?
It was what do I want to say? I mean, I think one of the things is at first it's like overwhelming, but then as you're going, you just kind of hit your stride, and then it was okay.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
So right on, because you mentioned being an introvert, and I'm like, I've seen you talk to like tons of people at once, so I know that takes practice. Let's call it. Definitely takes practice.
Yes.
So right on. And then last but not least, I wanted to thank you for your service to APA and what you're doing to help support the field. So we're big fans of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And one of the things that I think is so wonderful about the podcast is I think you're getting reaching other people to talk about mental health. And I think that's really important because we know that stigma is really still around, and that if we can reduce it so that people know about mental health and then seek treatment if they need it, then you're doing a wonderful service.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Doc, let me ask you our final question of the
Okay.
show. So our show is called Listen to Your Heart.
Yes.
So Dr. Debra, when you listen to your heart, what's it saying?
I am amazed at the journey that I've had. I would have never guessed, but I would say, follow your heart. It's going to tell you, or it's going to send you in the right direction. And yes, maybe you might not know what that is at the moment, but you will eventually find it, and you'll be standing on your feet. And, I look back and I'm very grateful and happy in terms of what I was able to do.
Dr. Debra, thank you so much for doing that.
And thank you for tuning in to Listen to Your Heart. If you'd like to help our mission, check out the link in our bio to visit our store or make a donation to our nonprofit, Imua Heart. Like, comment, and share with friends and family. Subscribe for future episodes, and together we can Imua towards a happier, healthier Hawaii. Until next time, mahalo.